Okay, just wrapping up Kirby's first press conference of the regular season. Obviously, we've had a lot of these, and this was the topic that we all knew was going to come up. Kirby knew it was going to come up. Is Trevor Etienne going to play against Clemson? And I'll have the clips up later today, but from Kirby himself. But the quote was, "I really don't." So stick with me on the quote here, because sometimes when reporters ask questions, there are multiple questions all at once. He says, "I really don't talk about the other stuff," talking about possible suspensions of Georgia players. And he said, "We won't discuss those," when he was very specifically asked if Georgia had made a decision about if Trevor Etienne would play. So, for those of you who are unaware of this situation, Etienne transferred to Georgia in the winter of 2024 from Florida, where he had racked up 753 yards for the Gators with 8 touchdowns. And then in March, he was arrested for a DUI. It was a DUI, alcohol less safe, reckless driving, failure to maintain lane improper driving on a road, affixing materials that reduce visibility of windows, windshields. So he had he had tents on his windows. The charges for the DUI were dropped, which means that then he was able to play, in theory, according to University of Georgia policy, athletic department policy. One thing that Kirby said in the spring was, as we all know, kids sometimes don't make the best decisions. The older you get, sometimes the tougher the consequences are for your mistakes. He's not going to let this mistake define him. He's embarrassed. He's upset. He knows he made a mistake. It's a teaching moment. I hope he gets better from it. And he talked about how he was going to let the legal process play out before announcing discipline. Well, there's going to be no announcement. So that was something he said 6 months ago, but there won't be an announcement because he's not announcing it, Kirby. He will not comment on it, which is his prerogative, whatever. He said this last week this was last week. He said Trevor is the leader of the room, talking about the running backs. He understands things and really does a good job of setting the tempo and the standard. We are looking forward to getting all those guys ready to go. So, look, he won't comment on it, which leads to speculation. And, that's what it is. I mean, it's not good or bad. My suspicion is that he will play. But the longer we go without him, without any declarative statement from Georgia, the more I suspect that he won't. I know that's a double-edged thing, but that's probably what they're wanting, Clemson to have to deal with, is not the not knowing part. But again, my suspicion is that my suspicion is he will play. I've talked about this after a lot of the discussion surrounding this camp, and stick with me on it, and I'll tell you what's going to happen if he doesn't play. But if he got a DUI, obviously he would not be playing. He does not have a DUI on his record. The charges were dropped. So there's no rationale in terms of the bylaws that would keep him from playing. If it's a team decision, it's a Kirby Smart decision, that's a different conversation. And, I don't know which it is. I can't, well, it's got to be a team decision, because there's nothing keeping him from playing, because you'd miss the traditional suspension is 10% of your season. Mark Richt used to round up, so that'd be 2 games for 1.2 round. That's a heck of a roundup, by the way. But that's not necessarily been the case here. Now, Kirby would tell you, and he has told us, there's been guys that have been suspended at Georgia for just traffic violations, not even DUI. So Kirby's point is, people are, well, this is my statement about it, and Kirby can correct it if he wants to. I mean, he chooses not to, so that's fine. But, I think Kirby's saying people are really going after us about this driving stuff, but they don't always know everything that's going on. For instance, most of the people, I think, are suspecting that he will be suspended because he got a DUI. But I have to say again, if someone has charges dropped, that means there wasn't enough to prosecute that person. Okay? And so it would be like, giving someone punishment for something that something could not be proven. Now, that's not the same thing as the team stuff. I think it's completely possible that Etienne does not play in the first half or the first quarter and then comes in and plays. I think that there's reasons to think that is possible because of him, trying, at least you're trying to send a signal to your team. Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, which I was trying to spit out a second ago, Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint was suspended a year ago for some driving stuff that was not a DUI. So, I think that's where we're at. But my suspicion is he'll play. That's not my reporting. I don't know. No one knows. And I think the guys, I think Etienne knows. I think maybe the guys on the team know. They might not, but this running back room at a minimum is going to be throwing some guys at you. Now, if Etienne does not play in this game, you also have Roderick Robinson out. So that's all of a sudden you go from, legitimately 6 deep at running back, something like that, to 4. Okay, 7 to 5, whatever it may be. There's been a lot of discussion about Nate Frazier this summer. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion of Branson Robinson. There's 2 guys named Robinson, no relation, that played running back at Georgia. Same class, if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes I get confused with that. Roderick is so Branson was they might not be the same class now because of because of Branson not playing this past season, but they're both younger guys. Roderick is going into his junior year, I think. I don't know. They've not been there long. So Georgia's going to throw running backs at Clemson left and right, whether it's, just Frazier and Branson Robinson, or it's those guys, Dwight Phillips Jr. They've got a lot of guys, Cash Jones, etc., that have been successful playing in the SEC. Like, these are not, Cash Jones has certainly. Branson Robinson scored touchdowns, I think plural, in the national championship game. So it's not like they're without guys. You would prefer to have Etienne play, in this game. But Kirby's not going to talk about it, and that's fine. But, from my perspective, what this does is it creates, if I were Kirby in Georgia, they are trying to get an advantage, and I understand that. There's no question about that. By the way, make sure you're signing up for our newsletter. The link is down below. That's the only ask I have of you during this video. Make sure you're signing up for that. And don't miss out on all this news. This stuff gets emailed out for free to your inbox every single day. You don't have to deal with the sewage of social media if you don't want to. But, in doing this, is from my perspective, by not answering the question, it makes it a bigger deal than it is. You're getting a coaching advantage, a competitive advantage, I guess. But in a way, it's reliving this entire episode every single press conference. I don't think people are going to ask about it tomorrow, but he probably will get asked on Wednesday. Then he'll get asked by the television people on Friday. And so that's just what it is. You've got a really good group of people that cover Georgia, if you want to call it covering. But, ABC, Sean McDonough, that's kind of that the news will leak out one way or the other. It always does. And your television partner's paying you money. ABC, Disney's not covering the SEC. They're not, these guys are not journalists. I don't mean that derogatorily, if that's even a word. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. They're not reporters. They are broadcasters. And not all broadcasters are journalists. It's not the same. It's not necessarily the same thing. So they don't. They may feel like they have a right to know because we're paying you this money. We don't have to be holden to any of these rules, and Kirby doesn't have to tell them either. So there's all of that at once. But we'll just see. Again, this is not insider stuff. I don't know the answer. I'm just speculating on that front. But I think when you do this, and you don't answer, like this could have been answered a week ago or whenever it was dropped. I can't remember when they were dropped. They were dropped in July. So this has been a month and wait a second now. This has been some time now that that this has been going on. It could have been, he could have talked about this the first day of fall camp and it not be a story anymore. But it's going to be a story the rest of the week. And that's, again, I'm not passing judgment on it. I'm just saying what it is. And if they're comfortable with it being out there all the time, then they're comfortable with it being out there all the time. That's fine. But my suspicion is he will play. But we'll know soon enough. I mean, that game's a noon kickoff. We'll be inside the dome at 9, probably 9:15, something like that. Georgia will get there at probably 9:45 or 10 o'clock. And then from that stage forward, if he's going through warm-ups, he very well may play. Doesn't mean he will. If he's not going through warm-ups at all, then obviously he's not going to play. So they would need his help. The line on the game just doesn't seem to be moving. So that means that people in Las Vegas either don't care, don't know, or know and it just doesn't matter. So my suspicion is they don't know yet. But this line, I follow the lines pretty closely as we get into a season because I'm a complete degenerate. But the line has not really moved in an appreciable way. It's I have to say, I don't mean this bad. I don't really trust ESPN bet. I what I mean by that is the line is higher, it's 14, but based on why? Everybody else except one other outlet is at 13.5. So you got MGM and FanDuel, DraftKings, Bally, all these guys, Hard Rock, everybody's sitting at 13.5. And the game has just hardly moved at all. So I don't think there's any real data out there about this in any way. But we'll just see. And usually these lines, they move hard on Sundays, and they kind of trickle a little bit during the week. They may go up a little bit, like 2 points would be a lot. And then sometimes on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right before games, lines can move quick because the betting public, the people who are really doing this to pay for their house and so forth, they're going to want to see what they can get at the end. If it's, or just sit out, they don't have to take a look at it. But 13.5, man. I mean, Georgia losing this game, no matter if Trevor Etienne plays or not, would be akin to Vanderbilt beating Virginia Tech. And that's a home game for Vanderbilt. So there's not a lot of, There's just this is a tough ask for Clemson, right now. If I were to tell you, I'm just looking for some other comparable games. Do you really think North Dakota State's going to beat Colorado? I don't. I think it could be halfway competitive. Georgia's favored over Clemson by more than Colorado is over North Dakota State. I mean, it's a significant line, 13.5. There's just not Michigan State would be beat by Florida Atlantic. That would be strange. When you look at Georgia Clemson and these two teams being ranked that high and the line being that wide, there's a lot of respect for Georgia out there right now. And South Dakota State's line with Oklahoma State is closer than Georgia Clemson. There's a lot of real respect out there for Georgia. I think the explosion is the part that I would be concerned about if I'm Clemson. Georgia's explosion, Branson Robinson is not Etienne. That's not the style that he played. Nate Frazier could be though. I know Dwight. I can tell you right now, I know what Dwight Phillips is like, and that is some serious straight line speed. And I've seen him play when he was at Pebblebrook. It is legit, all he needs is a little space and he's straight up out of there. But this line, it's a big line. I mean, it's a big old line. So, but my suspicion is he'll play. But I could be completely, but I'm being, completely transparent here. I don't know. We don't know at Dawg Post. It will trickle out though. That it always does. Thanks for watching.